Man is a helpless creature. His helplessness stems from the fact that he is a human being. Every man in himself, in the way he has been created, in his nature, in his ability, in his limbs and organs, in his faculties, in his outer and inner self, in his achievements and frustrations, in his joy and sorrow, in his intention and aspiration, in his diversions and preoccupations, among friends and strangers. In short, in all his movements and gestures, is found to be powerless and weak. Man's existence lasts only as long as he is not non-existent, his acquisition only as long as it does not become unprofitable, his desires as long as they are not foiled or thwarted, his energy and health as long as he does not succumb to illness, and all his constant toil and trouble as long as he is not laid low in his tomb, and his lofty flights only as long as he does not come tumbling down. Each of his imaginative flight, the acme of his thought, lasts only as long as decline does not set in. His ego puffs up like a child's balloon, and then the balloon bursts, and he can no longer play because he has been reduced to helplessness and powerlessness. Man attains knowledge. He frequents libraries in order to make himself immortal. He has a limited number of days at his disposal, and the books are numberless. His knowledge remains limited. What lies beyond his ken is unlimited. While he gobbles up various branches of knowledge speedily, annihilation makes short work of his life, and ultimately he finds himself totally helpless, totally incapable. Man wants to rise. He wants to be at the top. He reaches a summit and proceeds to place another mountain upon the summit, and then yet another mountain on the previous mountain's summit. The process goes on till there comes a stage when all the mountains and summits he had scaled and put together come tumbling down with an almighty crash. He wants to feel sorry and realizes that he has no time left for feeling sorry. He thinks about it, and when he says to himself, "What did I desire? What did I think? What did I gain?" he realizes that his thinking renders him powerless. Everything which he had acquired slips out of his hand, and he is forced to part with his acquisition. He builds a house for himself and spouse, attractive, good-looking, and tastefully decorated house with all amenities. His own house, a tribute to his imagination's gracefulness. His house appears to beam with delight. But after a short while, this place of luxury begins to turn into a house of mourning, and he begins to think, "What have I really built?" His vanity finally falls silent in helplessness. Man keeps a strict watch over his health. He pays special attention to his diet. He puts in a lot of effort. He wants to live for a long time, and life, when it is long, is subject to all the infirmities of age. Even if one lives on, his eyesight begins to fail, his hearing comes to an end, and then his memory goes haywire because of some shock. He lives on deprived of the pleasures of life. His staying alive means little because his near ones, his relatives, his loved ones begin to depart one by one. And when he looks at himself, he thinks that he is eyeing a stranger. There is no one around with whom he can share his memories, and then even these bits and pieces of memory are forgotten, washed out. His vast cosmos begins to fold up and shrink. He finds himself alone in the crowd. His vainglorious pose is transformed into an abject picture of helplessness and powerlessness. His own house throws him out, and after a while his photographs are removed from the walls and the albums, and no one is able to recall him. In fact, no one is even sure whether he did exist. Man sets off on a journey. He goes a long way, but how can he cover illimitable distances in the course of a limited life? The stupendous sweep of the earth and the sky contains vast distances. Distances overlap distances, and the ways are endless, all entailing a journey which never comes to a conclusion. Light, which travels hundreds of thousands of miles each second, cannot traverse these distances in billions of years. How can man range over such distances? So daunting a task leaves man distraught with helplessness and incapability. Man collects wealth. He amasses riches. He counts his money and is pleased when he finishes the count. He is proud to possess so much wealth. And when he comes to know that there have been pharaohs and Korahs before him on the earth, it dawns on him that their wealth availed them not. There are so many riches to be found on earth, both below and above it. May God preserve us from their evil. How much of these riches can a man acquire? What purpose would it serve if someone were to take these riches from one place to stash them away somewhere else? His banks overflow with money and his heart remains empty. The appurtenances of life are few. The desire for money grows stronger in direct proportion to the increase in one's wealth. Man comes to believe that the amount of money he possesses is not sufficient for his needs. He can never guard his prosperity well enough to ward off the threat of poverty. If a man desires more than what he has already obtained, he considers himself poor. The inchoate proliferation of desires finally overwhelms him. He is trapped in his own snare. The desires keep on changing with the passage of time. They die and are born again. The outcome of this game, the inevitable outcome, is helplessness and inability. It is his desires which render a man helpless. He is a victim of constraint. He is destined to fall in love with every new object. Having grown old, he becomes helpless and powerless as he tries to fulfill newer demands or lay his hands on newer houses, newer models. In the end, he realizes that his range has undergone a shrinkage. His world has become constricted, his ways have been blocked, his intentions undermined, his schemes abandoned half done, his programs left incomplete, his dreams wrecked, and that the magic flying car of his fancy has hurtled down to earth after wobbling in the air. Not enough time remains in a man's life to start all over again. What has happened has happened. What has already taken place cannot be undone. Pride comes a cropper. The man's powers fade away into frailty, and all his labor goes totally waste. What a peculiar plight. Man is temperamentally a proud creature, but fate decrees that he must be humbled by the knowledge that he is helpless. These are the very words set down by the writer. Man happens to be so arrogant that he even lays claim to godhead. He acts out each and every role. His helplessness is highlighted by the fact that he himself is fooled to the top of his bent while making a fool of others. Man attempts to turn his rank into a matter of prestige. He believes that he will become an eminent person merely by assuming the office of an important functionary. We notice that great men were not acknowledged as such simply because they were high up in hierarchy. It is their character which bestowed greatness upon them. Pride has been described as the worst trait of man. Allah has said, "O man, what makes you so proud that you have forgotten your magnanimous Lord? Do you not realize that a time approaches when men would be brought in the presence of their Lord?" Man, the modern man in particular, leads a life which is as superficial as it is phony. He has gone to pieces within himself. He is hemmed in by peculiar anxieties. He has lost hope in himself and in his future. He refuses to leave his cocoon. He is merely hiding his own self from himself. By proclaiming his triumphs, he hoodwinks others and in fact is a victim of deception himself. His very arrogance proclaims his helplessness. The more powerless he feels, the more potent he describes himself. His evolution, his progress, his progressivism all represent various stages of his self-evasion. He remains so busy that he doesn't have a moment to spare for himself or for his country. He appears on life's stage like an actor, delivers stirring dialogues, impresses the people, and after surrendering the stage to others, goes back to his forlorn solitude. What is better for man and what is not good for him? The knowledge of this rests with him who created men. He who bestowed reason on man is within his rights to expect that man will make a proper use of reason. The Creator wants man to meditate and show sagacity. He says to man, "O man, blessed with eyesight, go out in the world and notice the punishment that was meted out to those who were liars. Go and see the tragic end of those who were arrogant. See the hereafter of those who had forgotten their Lord. See the regrettable dividend of those who were rebels. See how they were overtaken by a terrible chastisement." The Creator wants man to meditate so as to enable him to discover the secret of his existence. Man is invited to think along these lines. How did such massive mountains come into being? And who created nature's fascinating spectacle where one comes upon such fathomless seas, such vast deserts, such high heavens unsupported by columns, so many countless stars and planets, this brilliant sun, this radiant moon? What significance can your products have when they are matched with the works of the real artificer? It is your ignorance which makes you proud. Otherwise, there is every reason for you to feel humbled. Man is encouraged to think. He who made this vast universe has concealed great power within the nucleus of the atom. He who made the housefly and the mosquito wishes to emphasize that the miracles of creation will continue to defy man's understanding. Man can unravel many a secret merely by pondering over the creation of the camel, but man has no time. The poor fellow is engrossed in his own programs. He wants to declare that he exists. He wants to be superior to others, and therein lies his misfortune. He wants others to bow down before him, and therein lies in bad luck. He sings his own praises before others, and that amounts to a sort of self-denunciation. He wants to be eminent among people, and therein lies his shallowness. He regards wealth as something to be proud of, and therein lies his poverty. He has no idea of the dreadful fate which overtook those who walked with a swagger on earth. Nature created man. Man himself is nature's principal sum. He himself is the responsibility of someone. He himself is the masterpiece of an artist. His advantage lies in remaining linked to nature. If he is satisfied with the gain which nature has proposed for him, that is his blessedness. But he wants to become someone else by breaking off his ties with nature. That is why he is so wretched. He believes in himself and becomes proud. If he were to believe in God, his humbleness will pave the way for his deliverance. All his faculties or powers have been bestowed on him by Providence. He should put his abilities to use without becoming supercilious. Man's safety lies in accepting that his existence is a favor done to him by the Creator. There would be no occasion for arrogance if he remains content with the favor and does not want to turn it into a prerogative. Each of his acquisitions is a bestowal, and each of his assertions an error. Only one claim befits him. That is to say, he should accept that he is feeble and helpless and humble. Imperiousness suits only the Creator and the Lord. So far as the created beings and the subjects are concerned, humility and meekness alone can lead to blessings and prosperity.